have more to say about that. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them, they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people.
Trump did not mince words. He is openly blaming DEI initiatives as having, at least in part, contributed to the terrible plane crash last night at Reagan National Airport when an American Airlines passenger jet collided there with an Army helicopter as it approached the Reagan National runway, killing everyone involved. Now, what Trump's getting at there is you heard him citing numerous reports detailing how the FAA was prioritizing the hiring of individuals based on DEI initiatives as opposed to hiring based solely and strictly on their competence and merit. And the reports got frankly absurd when apparently those DEI initiatives even included individuals with, quote, severe intellectual disabilities. And Trump today at this press conference brought the receipts. Check it out.
Targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway.
Yeah, so as you can see, Trump absolutely tore into these DEI initiatives at the press conference, and his most, shall we say, scathing critique he saved for the ridiculous former transportation secretary who oversaw this mess.
The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bull.
Dang, Mr. President, don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel there. I mean, you could clearly see. I've been reading some of our MAGA folk, or probably people who were on the border who ended up voting because of Bobby Kennedy and so forth, voting for Trump. I've seen some of them get a little bit upset at Trump for going there, but I'm sorry. You can tell, if we've been following Trump now for nearly a decade, you can tell he's very upset. He's very mad. He is livid over this. He even at one point, and this to me was the most suggestive moment of the press conference, he suggested that were the Democrats not able to get away with what they did in 2020, none of this would have ever happened. That's, as it were, the specter that stalked that whole press conference. You could tell how viscerally he feels that. I won't say there's a responsibility that he has for it, but there's just this sense of anger that it's a refrain we hear from Trump over and over again. August 15th, right? That disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal that killed what's 13 of our finest. That would never have happened if Democrats weren't allowed to get away with 2020. They'd still be alive. You heard him say that over and over. Russia would never have invaded Ukraine. October 7th. None of this would have happened had Trump been in office. You know, when he signed the Lake and Riley Act into law, he said that explicitly. This should never have happened. This should never have happened. So you have to understand, I do think there's a very visceral sense for Trump. That's what's weighing on Trump today. So much tragedy, so much needless horror that never had to happen did, precisely because we got such a corrupt system. And here we are. And it's not just President Trump, by the way. Here's our wonderful new Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, at the same press conference.
Pertains to the DoD as well. We will have the best and brightest in every position possible. As you said in your inaugural, it is colorblind and merit-based. The best leaders possible, whether it's flying Black Hawks and flying airplanes, leading platoons, or in government. The era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need the best and brightest, whether it's in our air traffic control, or whether it's in our generals, or whether it's...
Hey, gang, we often talk about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life. And one crucial aspect of that is your routine. Staying strong physically, mentally. It's not just about living longer. It's about living better, which starts with a good night's sleep. Now, I've partnered with Beam because they're a health and wellness company that's put in the time and rigorous research to craft science-backed solutions that truly optimize every system in your body from the moment you wake up until you lay your head down to sleep. Now, I've been using Beam Dream every single night for a while now, and it has completely changed the way I sleep. The endless news cycles, the uncertainty about our future, the weight of it all. I gotta be honest, it gets to me. It left me tossing and turning for hours. I have a very hard time turning my brain off. But gang, seriously, I'm not kidding you. Since taking Dream, I literally crash at night. I fall asleep so fast, and I sleep deeply and soundly all throughout the night. Beam Dream is made with the highest quality sleep-promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get that deep sleep we all need and deserve. In fact, it's become a nightly ritual of mine that I look forward to each and every day. If I may make a suggestion, I love their brownie batter flavor. You gotta try it with a little cream in there. It's beautiful. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning. I wake up feeling rested and ready to give my all, making a huge difference in how I show up every single day. Right now, you can save up to 35% off with my exclusive Beam discount. Just click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Turley at checkout. It's time to stop letting sleepless nights hold you back. Transform your sleep and your day with Dream, because you deserve it, gang. Click on that link or scan that QR code right now. Yeah, it's the entire administration that's saying, guys, legacy media, the legacy media tried to push back on this, but you can tell they were so tired. They're so overwhelmed. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. So you're blaming diversity? Yeah, we're blaming these stupid DEI initiatives. Yeah, but you can't do it. Sorry, a new sheriff's in town. It's exactly what we're doing. The entire administration's doing. And they just look, I'm sorry, even CNN, they look so defeated. By the way, a Daily Wire correspondent got called out today at the, I guess I should say, at the press conference. That's kind of cool. So now we're beginning to see the alternative media, which is, as Elon likes to remind us, is the new media. We are the mainstream media now. She got called, asked a great question of how does not what happened last night, does it not make you appreciate the fact that your transportation secretary got approved? And does this not now all the more hasten the need for, or intensify the need for the hastening of the approval of his other secretary cabinet. It was an excellent question. No one at CNN would ever ask that question. Now, I want to circle back on the concerns over DEI in a moment, but first, I did want to share with you what I think's the best analysis of the crash that I've read thus far. A big shout out to Larry Schweikert, by the way, for posting this on his X account. That's how I found it. I'm curious what you think. Let us know in the chat. This is from a U.S. Coast Guard helicopter pilot who's flown this route to Reagan National numerous times. He's at the X handle R Aviation. And this really is the best assessment of what happened that I've seen thus far. Again, let us know what you think in the chat. You've got a better one, a comparable one, and the like. But I'll read it for you. It's a bit lengthy, but I will. I hope to stop here or there and explain. A lot of people are asking what the helicopter was doing there. I'm a U.S. Coast Guard helicopter pilot who's flown that route 1,000 times. DC has a whole network of helicopter routes and zones designed to organize helicopter traffic and route it under and around commercial traffic. Route 4 goes right down the east side of the Potomac, max altitude about 200 feet. It's not uncommon for helicopters to be flying under landing traffic once visual separation is established and with correct altitudes maintained. From the ADSB data, that's the automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, so it uses GPS satellites and other navigation tools to help determine an aircraft's location at any given time. From the ADSB data, it looks like the helicopter was southbound on Route 4, and the airliner was going onto runway 33. Here's one plausible scenario. Just one that fits the facts we know right now. We could be totally wrong, but here it is. Landing on 33, that's the runway, is not as common as landing on runway 1. Airliners are often not cleared switch for runway 33 until just a few miles south of the Wilson Bridge. Let's say the H-60, so that's the helicopter, is southbound, and it's told to maintain visual separation with the landing CRGs. That's the airliner. The helicopter crew may not have caught that the jet or the airliner in question was landing at 33, which is less common. They look south and they see lights of the next aircraft line up for runway 1. And they report, yeah, we see it. Traffic in sight will maintain visual separation. Then they cruise south, looking south. Now, maybe the CRJ is a little low on their approach. That's the airliner is a little low on their approach, or the helicopter is accidentally a little high on their route and fails to see the airliner approaching from their 10 o'clock. The airliner's focused on DCA, that's Reagan National, which is surrounded by a sea of lights in the metro area. They don't notice one small set of lights out of place at their 1 to 2 o'clock as they focus on the runway. The controller believes the helicopter will maintain visual separation, so wouldn't suspect a problem, but he's focusing on the wrong plane. And it's too late. And boom, or bam, as he said. So when all is said and done, the helicopter thought it was distancing itself from the correct plane, which is the one landing on runway 1. And they assumed that because that's the usual runway. They didn't realize they were supposed to be looking for the other plane landing on runway 33, and the other plane didn't see the helicopter coming because of the light pollution. The helicopter's lights blended in with the city's lights. So you got 2 airplanes coming on different runways, and it wasn't made clear that there were 2 or which aircraft the helicopter was supposed to ID and distance itself from. Either way, it was an absolute tragedy, which leads us full circle here with Trump's press conference and his blaming of the erosion of competence in the FAA because of its diversity initiatives. Apart from him being upset, right? Apart from him, just that recurring refrain, if they didn't get away with 2020, none of this would have ever happened. Apart from that, we have to understand the role of something called Bioleninism in this, because I think Trump, again, draws from this frame of reference, whether he knows the term or not, because Bioleninism has been brought to the fore in explaining this crisis of competency that we're experiencing as a nation, particularly after 4 years of Biden. Obviously, if you watch those Senate hearings, those circuses of RFK and Tulsi and Cash, they're doing great. But I mean, you just look at those Democrat senators, one after one, the onesies. I mean, that's their best and brightest. I mean, let that hit you. That's as good as it gets for the Democrats. And many have noted that this notion of Bioleninism helps explain both the Democrat crisis of incompetence, or Democrat crisis of competence, as well as the larger national crisis of competence, wherever DEI has reigned supreme over the last several years. So what's Bioleninism? It's actually very simple. So Soviet Leninism or Marxist Leninism was organized fundamentally around ideological fidelity. So Marx provided the ideology, right? The ideology of communism, 19th century. But then Lenin, early 20th century, provided the structure for the revolution. And Lenin put people in key leadership roles based primarily on their fidelity to Marxist ideology. Bioleninism, rooted in identity politics, has a comparable revolutionary structure, but its basis for promotion is different. Bioleninism promotes its members to positions of leadership, not on the basis of ideological conformity, but instead on the basis of one's identity markers, literally how many boxes they can check off with this hire. And so what's the inevitable problem here? Well, with competence no longer part of the screening process for who gets promoted to positions of leadership, Bioleninism inevitably promotes those least qualified for leadership positions. Those who, in a meritocratic system, would never in a million years even be considered for such positions. These are the ones who end up basically governing and operating our institutions. And they're the ones least qualified to be governing and operating because the basis for their promotion had nothing to do ultimately with competence. So I simply can't think of a better summary of how we get someone like a Pete Buttigieg or Kamala Harris for that matter, right? Or more recently, Karen Bass, the mayor of LA. These are the least qualified people on the planet, and yet they're being given the highest ranking jobs. Why? Well, if it's not their qualifications and competence, what is it? It's precisely these DEI standards that DEI advocates require. So this is what Trump was absolutely railing against at the press conference. And not just Trump, Pete Hegseth as well. The whole of the new incoming cabinet, they are absolutely united in almost rugby-like fashion to take on the media with this. The days of DEI have come to an end. DEI is dead. And the horrific tragedy we all witnessed has only steeled Trump's commitment to bury it.